If you scream, I'm gonna shoot you. Get in the container. Now! Don't move.
The film begins by introducing us to Kara, a vibrant and endearing young girl who shares her home with her closest friend, Jess. One morning, Jess awakens to find Kara already up, patiently waiting for her to start the day. As the narrative unfolds, we learn that Jess's family is away on a trip, prompting her to invite Kara to stay over, alleviating her anxiety about being alone in the house. Excitedly, the two girls plan a day at the city's popular lake and rush through breakfast, eager to immerse themselves in the day's adventures. Before they leave, Kara calls her mother, Deborah, to let her know their plans and assures her that she will be home by 10 o'clock that night. During the conversation, Deborah inquires whether Kara's boyfriend, Ryan, will be joining them. Kara explains that Ryan is unable to come due to a training commitment. The conversation takes a more personal turn as Deborah mentions her own plans for the evening, reassuring Kara that if she returns home and doesn't find her mother, it's because she's out with her new partner. With that, Kara ends the call. As Jess steps into the shower, she asks Kara to water the yard plants, an innocuous task that allows Kara to savor the tranquility of their quiet neighborhood, where the streets lie mostly empty. While tending to the plants, Kara's peaceful moment is abruptly interrupted by the sight of a sleek black car slowly approaching. The driver circles the house with an unsettling intensity, as if scrutinizing her every movement. Without warning, the man exits the vehicle and approaches Kara, inquiring about her family's presence at the house. Kara explains that this is her friend's home and that neither of their families are around. The man then asks her to hold his books momentarily. To her shock, she notices he is brandishing a gun and demands that she get inside the car or face dire consequences. Paralyzed by fear yet aware of her limited options, Kara reluctantly complies. Inside the car, she sees plastic storage containers and is forced into one, which he locks to conceal her from view as he drives away. They soon arrive at an isolated location where the man informs Kara that he will bind her so she cannot move or make any noise until they reach their destination. He leaves her momentarily to retrieve tools from the trunk of the car. In that fleeting moment of solitude, Kara contemplates escaping but quickly dismisses the idea, fearing for her life. Ultimately, she resigns herself to remaining hidden within the plastic storage container as he ties her up and covers her mouth before continuing to drive. Meanwhile, Jess finishes her shower and begins searching for Kara throughout the house, growing increasingly alarmed at her absence. Concerned, she decides to call Kara's mother to check if she has heard from her daughter. To Jess's shock, Deborah is unaware of Kara's whereabouts following their earlier conversation. Panic sets in for Deborah as she learns that her daughter has gone missing. She immediately contacts Kara's boyfriend, Ryan, but he can only confirm that he last saw Kara at Jess's house. Desperate for answers, Deborah rushes over to Jess's home and calls Kara's father, Ron. However, Ron admits he has no information about Kara either. Living 5 hours away, he promises Deborah that he will do everything possible to reach them as soon as he can. In a state of urgency, Deborah contacts the police to report her daughter's disappearance. However, the investigator dismisses her concerns as typical teenage behavior, suggesting that Kara likely ran off with friends or was upset and left home on her own accord. While they plan to interview neighbors for any potential leads, Deborah vehemently disputes this characterization of her daughter, insisting on Kara's responsible nature as she embarks on a frantic search for her missing child. The detective tells her to go home and wait since Kara may be trying to reach her. Then he leaves her and walks away. To this point, Kara arrives at the man's home. He leads her to the bedroom and begins to explain his rules. The most crucial rule is that she must address him as a daddy and get his permission before doing anything. He threatens her that if she tries to flee or do anything else, he will continue to wield his gun at all times. Kara is so afraid of him that she does not respond to him. But he forces her to answer his inquiries and inquires about every aspect of her life, including her name, the names of her parents, and so on. He turns out to be completely unaware of her and kidnaps her at random. He then tells her to sleep on the bed and assault her. Shortly later, he emerges to sit on the sofa and compels her to sit beside him. He begins talking to her, then inquires about her school and other aspects of her life. Kara decides to get to know him better and acquire as much information as she can in the hopes of escaping. So she pretends to be at ease around him. Kara continues to question him about his life, where he is from, and the name of the school he attended. He informed her that he did not attend college because it was very expensive for him. But he joined the army and served for 9 years. Then Kara observes that he has various animals, including fish and parrots. He lets her go to see them and claims he adores the gray parrot the most. He recognizes her fear but promises her that he will not murder her. But as soon as he grows bored with her, he will let her go. Then, he threatens her with physical harm if she considers reporting him. People will continue to regard her as the girl who has assaulted her entire life. After a while, Kara requests him permission to use the bathroom, hoping to find a window to escape through. However, the man orders her to leave the door open so that he can observe her. He then takes her to dinner, but Kara declines, saying that she is not hungry. So the man tells her that if she refuses to eat, she will be breaking his laws and must do something in exchange for forgiveness. Then he decides to have her sweep the floor while he eats. Meanwhile, Kara is checking everything around her to learn as much as she can about him. Kara notices some of the doctor's addresses, which suggests that this man has a problem. Kara soon discovers that the man who has taken her captive lives with a woman, though she is currently absent. As he leads her to watch the news, he scoffs derisively when he notices that her disappearance has gone unnoticed, chuckling with a twisted satisfaction. "Seems like your family doesn't care about you at all," he taunts, a smirk curling at the corners of his mouth. Yet Kara sees through his cruel attempts to provoke her and chooses silence over engagement, refusing to allow his words to penetrate her resolve. In a chilling move, the man places Kara inside a box to prevent her from speaking or calling out for help while he makes a phone call. When he returns after hanging up, he finds her visibly shaken and in tears. Attempting to manipulate her fear, he feigns reassurance by claiming to have struggled with anxiety for much of his life. He offers her some of his medication, insisting it will help calm her nerves. As night falls, he chooses to bind her to the bed, effectively immobilizing her while he sleeps just inches away. Exhausted from the ordeal, Kara drifts into a fitful sleep. Meanwhile, Deborah frantically reaches out to everyone she knows in search of information about Kara's whereabouts. When her efforts yield no leads, she decides to confront the police chief, Dale. Frustrated, she expresses her belief that he is indifferent to her daughter's case. She recounts speaking with neighbors, one of whom mentioned seeing a black car near their home. However, none of Kara's friends own such a vehicle. Dale responds with a condescending smile, suggesting that Deborah may not be aware of all her daughter's acquaintances, reminding her that every teenager harbors secrets from their families. But Deborah's intuition screams that her daughter is in danger. Kara has never gone this long without contacting them. Dale assures her that he will speak with the investigator about the situation. The following morning, Kara awakens early to find the man still asleep beside her. Realizing this may be her only chance for escape, she struggles against her bindings and manages to free herself. Quietly, she makes her way to the door and bursts outside. By chance, she spots a passing car with two men inside and urgently informs them that she has been kidnapped, pleading for them to take her to the nearest police station. They agree and allow her to ride with them. As they drive, Kara notices the striking similarity of the houses in the neighborhood and directs them toward the man's residence, urging them to remember it for the authorities. Upon arriving at the police station, Kara meets an investigator named Roland. She recounts her harrowing experience as he listens intently, trying to calm her racing heart. He leads her to his office to gather all pertinent details about her ordeal and instructs his assistant to verify Kara's identity and check for any missing person reports. He also requests that the assistant interview the two men who brought her in. Just then, another investigator named Bonnie enters the room and speaks with the men about where they found Kara, but they struggle to recall the specific address of the man's home. Meanwhile, Kara continues to share her story with Roland, who learns from Bonnie that Kara's mother reported her missing approximately 18 hours ago. Understanding the urgency of the situation, Roland contacts Deborah to provide reassurance and hands Kara the phone so she can hear her mother's voice. As Deborah hears her daughter speak, an overwhelming wave of relief washes over her, solidifying her determination to rush to Kara's side without hesitation. Bonnie notes that the two men are unable to remember the house number, prompting her to suggest that they take Kara to the neighborhood to help identify the property. Kara agrees and accompanies them, determined to recall any distinctive features of the house's exterior. However, her mind draws a blank. Just then, they encounter a local worker, and they step out of the car to speak with him. In a moment of clarity, Kara mentions that the man she encountered had covered all his windows and adorned his bedroom with bear-shaped artwork, alongside an extensive collection of various animal decorations. The worker pieces together her description and provides them with the man's residence number. Acting swiftly, the officer calls for backup units to prepare for a potential breach of the house. Roland decides to take Kara to the police station for her safety. When Deborah arrives, she envelops her daughter in a tight embrace, relief washing over her. Meanwhile, Jim, the police chief, leads a substantial team of officers to the suspect's residence. Upon breaking in, They find the house eerily empty but confirm it matches Kara's detailed description. Back at the station, Jim instructs his team to canvass the surrounding area and interrogate Kara further for more information. Bonnie approaches Kara with a set of photographs featuring local residents. Almost immediately, Kara identifies her kidnapper and affirms that he owns the house. His name is Richard, and now he has seemingly vanished from the neighborhood. Bonnie begins to interrogate Kara, and she is taken aback by how much information Kara possesses about him. Kara shares concrete details, including addresses and phone numbers for Richard's doctors, and recounts an unsettling encounter where she saw him opening a box near his collection of animals. She describes how he grew anxious when he caught her watching him and quickly concealed the box. Grateful for Kara's insights, Bonnie informs her that 2 nurses will soon arrive to check on her. Deborah is consumed by worry over her daughter's traumatic experience, particularly as the specifics of what Richard did remain painfully unclear. Her anxiety escalates upon learning that he has managed to escape, deepening her fears for Kara's safety. Meanwhile, law enforcement begins searching for the box Kara mentioned. When they finally locate it, they are horrified to find it filled with girls' underwear, none belonging to Kara, as well as clippings from articles about missing teenagers. This grim discovery leads them to suspect that Richard may be a serial killer who meticulously conceals evidence of his victims. However, their conclusions are still tentative at this stage. Jim orders that police departments involved in the cases of these missing girls connect with one another to gather as much information as possible. They distribute Richard's photograph widely and urge the public to report any sightings of him. The following day, Jim arranged a meeting with Dale, the chief of the police station, who had been briefed on Kara's troubling disappearance. Jim seeks to gather as much information as possible regarding the case. He shares alarming details about 3 girls who have gone missing, their whereabouts still unknown, and their bodies yet to be found. Jim expresses his grave concern that Richard is behind these abductions, detailing how he allegedly kidnapped and assaulted his victims until he grew bored with them. According to Jim, Richard would then drown them in his bathtub before disposing of their bodies in nearby marshes. Unfortunately, when the police discovered these remains, they were unable to identify the perpetrator, but they are increasingly convinced they are dealing with a serial killer. As their conversation unfolds, Bonnie enters, revealing her own investigation into Richard. She managed to contact his wife, Ashley, and his sister, Stephanie, but insists she would share her findings the next day. Meanwhile, Kara completes her medical checkup and prepares to leave the hospital, where everyone anxiously awaits her return. They are struck by her remarkable resilience in the face of such trauma. On the way home, Deborah tries to glean what happened from Kara, but her daughter adamantly refuses to divulge any details, pleading with her mother to stop asking questions. A few hours later, Jess visits Kara in her room to keep her company, choosing not to press for information out of respect for Kara's wishes. However, their deep bond of trust prompts Kara to eventually share the harrowing details of her experience with Jess. Listening to her best friend's terrifying story fills Jess with sadness and concern. The next day, the police begin their investigation into Richard's wife. To their surprise, she is incredulous at the accusations, insisting that Richard is a wonderful person and capable of such heinous acts. They then turn their attention to his sister Stephanie, who expresses skepticism about Richard's behavior but also cannot believe he could be a serial killer. Stephanie mentions that Richard spoke with her just yesterday and is currently staying in a nearby motel. With this information, law enforcement moves quickly to apprehend him but finds nothing at the motel. Back at the station, they realize that Richard had used his phone recently, allowing them to trace his location. After tracking him down to near his second sister's house, they contacted her. She reveals that Richard had arranged to meet her in a secluded area 2 hours later. Recognizing this as a critical opportunity, the police mobilize to arrest him. Meanwhile, Kara decides to leave the house for the first time since her ordeal. Knowing Ryan has a match that she wants to attend, she takes Jess along with her. The police assign an officer to accompany them for safety, aware that Kara remains at risk as long as Richard is free. Despite Deborah's attempts to dissuade her from going out, Kara stands firm in her decision. At the match, Kara tries to focus on enjoying the event despite the curious glances directed her way. Meanwhile, law enforcement closes in on Richard and tracks him until he realizes he is surrounded. In a tragic turn of events, Richard pulls out a gun and takes his own life as officers move in to apprehend him. The following day, Deborah feels a sense of relief wash over her, knowing that the man who abused her daughter is dead and will no longer pose a threat to their lives. However, when Kara learns of his death, she is filled with disappointment and hurt, realizing that her family had known since the previous day but chose not to inform her, viewing her as too young to handle the truth. Overwhelmed by this realization, Kara storms out of the house to sit alone on the front steps, needing space to process her emotions. To her surprise, Jim arrives shortly after. Kara confides in him her desire to confront Richard in court and see him held accountable for his actions. Jim listens with empathy and pride, acknowledging her bravery. He expresses regret for not telling her about Richard's death sooner and calls her the bravest girl he has ever met. He reassures her that because of her courage, countless other girls have been spared from Richard's evil. Kara then makes a heartfelt request for Jim to keep her story private from her family, concerned about how they might react. Jim respects her wishes and agrees to keep her secret. After some time apart, Kara returns to her mother to apologize for her earlier outburst, encouraging Deborah to let go of the past since it cannot be changed. Deborah acknowledges her mistake in pressuring Kara and offers her the freedom to choose her own path. Choosing to focus on the positive, Deborah embraces the fact that her daughter is alive and has emerged stronger from the ordeal. Years later, inspired by her experiences, Kara decides to pursue a career as an investigator specializing in assault cases, determined to help others find justice and healing. Thank you for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps until next time. Have a nice day.